Good morning, everyone. Do a little techno check. Is the sound okay from my end? Okay. All right. Today I'm introducing Reverend Kyoku Tracey Walen, an associate teacher of Hokyoji. She began practicing Buddhism in 1998, was ordained in 2008, and did Dharma transmission with Byakuren in 2015. She's trained at Great Vow for a couple of years, 2008 to 2010, and she studied sewing with Tomoe Katagiri and became one of her successors. Currently, she resides and supports Hokyoji and serves as a Zen teacher at Clouds and Water Zen Center in St. Paul. So thank you, Kyoku, for joining us today, and we look forward to what you have to say. Thank you. And you are muted if you are speaking right
I
now.
am, but there's not hearing isn't going on. Good morning, everybody. It's good to be here. So this morning, I'm hoping that we can have some talking, but also some exchanging of people's experiences and insights or confusions. And I'm personally, I've been having a harder time than usual just getting through every day. And so I want to talk about practicing with hindrances, from reactive to responsive. I'm feeling in my own life uh, less able to be responsive and more prone to being reactive. I'd like to start with a quote I really like from Ajahn Chah, who is a now dead Thai teacher who practiced most of his life and was known for being uh, enlightened, but also tough and a lot of respect and love for his um, from his Sangha. The quote is, "There are two kinds of suffering: the suffering that leads to more suffering and the suffering that leads to the suffering." This is so succinct, but I didn't really uh, know this. I didn't know this teaching until relatively late in my period of being a Buddhist and practicing Buddhism. So, what does the suffering that leads to the end of suffering look like? Obviously, we've all been exposed to that, but going through it is a whole different thing. I also want to share a quote from Suzuki Roshi, and this comes from a book written by one of his students that compiles his talks. And it's the second one, which is a little less known, called Not Always So. And briefly, he says, as a Buddhist, you are changing the foundation of your life. That things change is the reason why you suffer in this world and become discouraged. When you change your understanding and your way of living, then you can completely enjoy your new life in each moment. The evanescence of things is the reason why you enjoy your life. When you practice this way, your life becomes stable and meaningful. So the point is to change your understanding of life, to practice with the right understanding. So that really resonated with me because it's easy to read a lot of wonderful teachings, less easy to meditate, but it's a wonderful short way of realizing how to let go. Last but not least, a while back, I was exposed to a book called Dancing with Life by Philip Moffat. Hope you can see this. And he is also a modern Buddhist teacher. And what he says is the Eightfold Path is not a list of what to do if you want to become a good person. Rather, it is a matrix of behavior, understanding, and practice for finding peace of mind and meaning in your life. It requires discipline, hard work, and renunciation. So this is my way of offering you the opportunity I enjoy to say, how can I go back to the root teachings to refresh my own energy, my own aspiration? Because, of course, everything's always changing. And in particular, I've been noticing what the Buddha called the 5 hindrances. The 5 hindrances are desire or wanting pleasure, ill will, mind is filled with dislike, sloth and torpor, mind too sleepy or apathetic, restlessness and worry, too anxious to stay steady, doubt, lack of faith in yourself to stay mindful and act skillfully. And the Buddha called this the mother of all hindrances because it stops you from ever beginning. You don't think you can do it. In particular, I've had a lot of sloth and torpor coming up in my life. Not that I was missing any of the other 4 hindrances, but it's something that I've recognized, and really the process of dealing with my life this day and this time has made me realize how much refuge I've taken in this particular hindrance. And that's what's inspired me to say, well, let's talk about these a little bit because we often don't. So a lot of this talk is going to come from the Philip Moffat book, Dancing with Life is the title. It is how you relate to desire that is the cause of your suffering. You have the power to transform your life experience. So this is something that's quite subtle. And it's something that I've appreciated as a perspective. It's something that is kind of infinitely there to help me stay with my aspiration. Feeling is not suffering. Grasping is. So this gets back to the original quote. There's suffering that basically keeps us from non-suffering, and there's suffering that helps us find the way of non-suffering. Mind is usually clouded with hindrances, but you hardly notice it. It's just the way we've come into the world and we get used to it. You have the power to transform your life experience. Having a strong practice of torpor and sloth, I can really notice how much difference that makes. Torpor and sloth is a really excellent way to park agitation. Like all of the hindrances, when you practice it, you may be looking for happiness, basically. And by practicing it, you're guaranteeing that you can't possibly get there, but it's so alluring. It's so alluring. It's like, well, I don't know what to do. I don't feel like doing it. And so I'll just take a little vacation with sloth and torpor. Unfortunately, it's not very good at helping you get through the day with great appreciation. So the practice of abandoning hindrances, mindfulness is the best way to separate desire from a hindrance. So just even knowing that sloth and torpor is happening is already a big beginning, and aspiring to put that to good use has been a long time practice of mine, or at least an aspiration for my practice. I also practice torpor and sloth a lot, so I'm where I am on any given day. So what we're doing when we're practicing with hindrances, and this is any hindrance, so we're trying to separate desire from attachment. We're examining the desire. Is it pleasant or unpleasant? So this is something I think in my own practice, I'm aware of being able to kind of recognize things that are hindrances. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm actually studying it and practicing with it wholeheartedly. And wholeheartedly is needing. That's why I love that first quote about there's suffering that continues suffering, and there's suffering that is the path to non-suffering. So whatever is coming up that I'm leaning towards or averting from, some ways to study it, some ways to use it as a part of good medicine for increasing my understanding of what this life is about and how non-suffering works. Observed. Am I observing based in the present, or am I stuck in the past or thinking about the future? This is subtle. What kind of energy does the desire have? Observing in the present how the mind is moving relative to that particular. So exactly how is my torpor and sloth working? Are there any words or images that accompany it? So it's really getting to know it in a constructive way. Is there a movie in the head about the outcome? Yeah, so part of Torpern's love, I think, is telling yourself stories about needing rest or a break, things like that. And those aren't necessarily wrong. It's just finding out if you're actually there doing it, or are you watching the movie in your head? Is the desire an end in itself, a form of entertainment, kind of a laziness or a boredom? Are you wanting something to want? Nothing in particular is happening. That's how one is receiving this moment, this moment. You're looking for signs that you are caught in clinging. The body is tense. You're feeling urgent, anxious, nauseous, hypertension. So this is a little like being your own doctor. The symptoms are presenting. What's it looking like? Where is adjustment needed? What kind of adjustment is needed? Examine the story. Observe how the mind narrows with clinging. So whatever arises, that's just arising. But when we move into wanting, that's when we're getting into the whole category of clinging. So we're moving from, what do I, whatever's coming up, and we're responding to it in some way. If it's something that fits what we think we want, or fits what we think we can't stand, then we start moving into the category of clinging. And clinging leads to essentially clutching. And it becomes the action. It becomes something that we pursue and get stuck on. I find that when I read the news, those are some good questions for me to just observe, to just tune into. Look for signs that you are caught in clinging. Your body is tense. You're feeling urgent. Are you feeling anxious? Are you feeling nausea or hypertension? Examine the story. Observe how mind narrows with clinging. So that's true. It's really hard to notice what's going on just right here, right now, in your house, in your car, when you're going outside. I really benefit from going outside and with the goal of just being, walking and noticing when I'm floating off, because I can walk from here to the Zendo and be completely absent in that process. I float off into thought, but it's possible with determination to just keep coming back and coming back. We hear that phrase, but it is the actual activity that really is the training. So whether we're on the cushion or off the cushion, we can aspire and then essentially work with that aspiration very consciously, whatever the result is. Be interested in obsessive, repetitive thoughts. Notice how they drain energy. I think even now, each one of us could pause and think about obsessive and repetitive thoughts, especially the things that we don't like. Particularly, I think there's those that are more likely to see the downside and those that are more likely to see the upside. So both of those need to be seen and just observed. And observing is something that can be done with lots of different parts of our body. So we can tune into the body, we can tune into our thoughts, can tune into our feelings. There's a lot to notice. Can you separate clinging from desire? Meaning, oh, I'd love some potato chips, to, oh, I'll go to the aisle in the I'll go to the aisle in the supermarket that has potato chips, as opposed to saying, no, I've decided I'm not going to do that because it's not good for me. And they're getting even more expensive now. However that works, that process is always available to us if we're attuned to our aspiration. And our aspiration grows stronger as we align our behaviors with it. Can you separate clinging from desire? That's helpful in seeing that, oh, we're getting into deep water. We're getting into, it's like you start out on the shore and then you start walking into the water. And are you paying attention? Are you aware that essentially you're strengthening the form of suffering that is not facilitating enlightenment? Invite the mind to let loose of clinging. So I think probably we've probably all had that. When I was at Thich Nhat Hanh's place in France for a month, there was a gathering of approximately 500 people. And there was conversation, there was eating, there was teaching, all that kind of good stuff. And I found myself being delighted to find that I was taking the last bag of potato chips that was available in the little shop. And it wasn't because it wasn't the kind of thinking that says, aha, I got the last one. It was more, oh, good, I can eat the potato chips. But a friend of mine that I'd made was passing by and all of a sudden changed directions to come over to find out that that was the last bag. And she started to ask me if, I would share her one. She really wanted potato chips. And I was starting to get a little bit kind of pulled back a little bit. And all of a sudden she just stopped and she said, you know what? I'm just going to pass up these potato chips. And that was a very powerful teaching, a very, very powerful teaching. Another powerful teaching there was one of the nuns every morning would get up early enough so that she could do essentially slow walking to get to the dining hall and the meditation hall. And so it'd be just like, just like slow Kinhin. And she probably had at least a mile or more to do that. And that was another, I could just feel that in my body. I could feel the agitation, the frustration, the desire to just um, hop into life and go get some breakfast and forget about practice until after I'd at least gotten to the dishwashing stage. So we can ask ourselves, what does abandoning look like? Or we're just need to be curious if we want to be able to practice the kind of suffering that leads to full-bodied, we'll call it enlightenment. Abandoning a hindrance is leaving things as they are. What does that mean? Abandoning a hindrance is leaving things as they are. So whatever's coming up. So when I notice when I'm walking, I just wandered off into thinking, that in and of itself doesn't have to be a problem. That's just, I'm not carrying out the activity that will help me completely open up to things as they are and the kind of suffering that is not a hindrance. It's just the recognition that there's things I like and I don't like. I don't like forgetting. I haven't developed the capability to always be here. I have ideas about what that looks like, which probably aren't realistic or accurate. So it is a whole very subtle way of practicing this practicing, non-practicing kind of a thing. It's not letting our thinking tell us how things are, but instead just being how things are. If we contemplate desires and listen to them, we are actually no longer attaching to them. That's what abandoning looks like. Abandoning, according to Ajahn Sumedho, who was a student of Ajahn Chah's, abandoning a hindrance is leaving things as they are. Does not mean that you annihilate them or throw them away. If we contemplate desires and listen to them, we are actually no longer attaching to them. So I think this is helpful because this is so subtle. We really have to pay attention and cultivate that attention to be able to distinguish when we're getting into trouble. That being the suffering that really is a hindrance. Ajahn Sumedho likens clinging to holding a clock in your hand for a long period of time until it becomes heavy and your arm begins to ache. Letting go of the clock is not throwing it away. It is a perfectly good clock. The clock was not the problem. So the desire for torpor and sloth or whatever other kind of hindrance there is not a problem. Like the clock, and it can be put down and it has fine qualities. There's nothing evil or problematic about the clock. It's not the problem. Putting it down provides relief and frees up energy. The clock itself was not causing our suffering, only that you did not know to put it down. So that's what our practice helps us with, so that we begin to recognize, oh, I'm not stuck with this. I'm not hindered by an idea about what letting go looks like. I'm just doing it. But that's subtle. So I remember movies of myself and others in my family learning to walk. And it really made me appreciate my parents, because sticking with that repetitive, that continual falling down, get up, fall down, get up, fall down, is such a good picture, I think, for developing the patience and mm, resilience to practice in accord with what will help us find, practice, and offer our example of non-clinging to others. So it's not the clock. The distinction is quite subtle, this idea that the clock is not the problem. It's how we're looking at things, or how we're seeing things, how we're understanding what capabilities we have and what aligns with non-suffering. So paying attention is very important in developing, just like learning how to walk, the actual ability to become expert practitioners, I guess would be. So I sometimes think about professional sports players, and how you certainly didn't necessarily start out with innate capabilities to play baseball or sink a basket, and how even when you've done it for years and years and years, it's still possible to learn and to adapt to changing circumstances. Acting according to what you value, i.e., enlightenment, versus being attached to the outcome of that action. Am I getting enlightened? In the case of the unwholesome desires, hold on a second. Harming somebody, things are a little different. If we're wishing somebody ill, if we're hating on them, then that's like holding a hot coal, according to the Buddha. We need to drop it as soon as we can. And it's likely that we'll suffer some wounds because of it. And yet that's exactly what's needed. So putting that to good use. It's such a easy thought. And it's not actually hard to do if we understand that it's an opportunity. But we also have our habits. We also have the way we have been used to things. So we're not necessarily going to be expert at this. As a matter of fact, mostly we're not experts at dropping things immediately. Compassion and loving kindness are essential. I know I and many, many people who do one or more loving kindness sessions or classes can get immensely frustrated. May I be happy. It sounds like just a bunch of words. But actually, if we follow the instructions and we persist and we believe the teaching that these practices are helpful to our happiness, then we'll gradually find them out. I remember when I was practicing a Great Vow, there was a woman that came as part of a group, and we all learned things about how to practice uh, uh, loving kindness, the four aspects of loving kindness. And there was a woman that I remember having lunch with when we were on break, who was just immensely frustrated. It's just, this is so lame. It's just words. It's nothing. But she decided, she got far enough, she decided, she says, well, I'll at least try this, because she was unhappy enough and looking for compassion and loving kindness and equanimity. So she just said, I'm just going to do it for a year and see what happens. And it turned out she did enough of it, enough of the time, that she became a major fan of uh, compassion and loving kindness practice. But it took her commitment. It took her being frustrated and wanting to abandon it and then coming back to it. So this is, we have to be tigers if we're going to do the kind of suffering that leads to, um, I'll just say, true happiness. Using desire as a tool for your transformation and liberation allows you to expand or transform desire into love. Now, I want to share one quote from T.S. Eliot, who apparently wrote something called the Four Quartets or something like that. But it's sort of a poem about his practice. He probably wouldn't have called it Buddhism, but it operated that way. So this is just an excerpt from one of his writings. This is the use of memory for liberation, not less of love, but expanding of love beyond desire, and so liberation from the future as well as the past. I'll read it one more time. This is the use of memory for liberation, not less of love, but expanding of love beyond desire, and so liberation from the future as well as the past. Now, what time is it? 10:10. So I would love it if people would talk about some of their own personally favorite, hold on a second, hindrance, their personally favorite hindrance. They are, again, desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worry, and doubt or lack of faith. So I'm hoping people will share a little bit of some of their own learnings and experience with this practice, with the hindrances that we all have. Take it away. David, thank you.
Kyoku. So, your talk is very timely for me because I have suffered not one crushed vertebrae, but now three crushed vertebrae. The pain has been going on for months. I've been treated now for the last two vertebrae, which should help relieve the pain, but I doubt about ever being relieved of pain was ever present for the last several weeks, if not longer, especially after the treatment. The pain actually got worse for a few days, and I doubted that the future would bring relief. Not remembering one of the first teachings I had as a Buddhist was the past is in the past. You can't change it. So don't worry about it. You just have to deal with what Ryu calls the karmic arrows that affect you today. And the future is unknowable. You can't know what's going to happen. I can't know if the pain will last weeks or months still, but I should have some relief, I hope. And it's really been hard for me to practice at all. It's been hard for me to sit. I am totally exhausted from the pain. And if I sit at all, it's impossible to stay awake. It's impossible. I just cannot stay awake. And so it's been really trying on my practice. But yesterday I talked to my friend Daiki, who lives in Nebraska. He's 82. I'm sure he suffered a lot of pain. He's also one of his prior professions was a therapist, psychotherapist, and he helped me understand that there's ways around it. There's things that I can do that don't have to lead to more pain. There's things that I can do to reduce it, not reduce it, but at least, yeah, reduce it, stop it and reduce it when I need to. And I implemented a protocol yesterday that worked. It just worked. It gave me hope. So the doubt I have, I'm hoping, which is the hindrance, will I can start looking at the pain as just the pain again. I had for a long time until the last couple of weeks. But now I can look at it again as just pain. It's just now. You know, when you have so much pain in the present moment, that's all you can think about. It's just so hard. And so and and my travel is restricted. I can't lift more than 10 pounds, which means, you know, if I want to go to Hokyoji for the upcoming retreat with Ryu, I don't know that I can because I can't lift more than 10 pounds. So luggage, I can't, no, it's not going to happen. So, which really troubles me as well. So that's what I've been dealing with. That's I guess it's a hindrance. Really it is. It's a hindrance, my doubt of my practice.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Yonin. I think it's an excellent, it's excellent for all of us to hear about that because we all have pain. And it's tempting to try to have a picture of what practice with that pain or in that pain looks like. And to just be with it in whatever way you can, which is what I hear you've been doing. And crying when you need to cry and screaming when you need to scream is so important. It's such a I think helpful way to practice this, alignment with circumstances as they are. And it's so easy to have ideas about what it should look like, what it does look like, instead of just doing the best you can, which is what I hear you doing. I'm just doing the best I can to be with what is, to just be with what is. And when I can't be, well, then that's what is. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I'll put you on my loving kindness meditation list. Who else would like to share something or ask something or teach something? I sometimes have things I put in my pocket in case I lose my way and my rhythm when I'm giving a talk. And I just noticed a little note I left for myself about going to an empty gas station. So this is another kind of learning. I am an adult child of alcoholic family system, and I was advised to go immediately after doing a bunch of therapy. The therapy got to the point where my therapist said, you need to find an adult children of alcoholics group to go to ASAP. And so I said, okay. Long story short, I started out with 12 steps that had to do with surrendering, etc., etc. And I was really having a hard time with them because part of what I was dealing with was anger about not having good parents. Good, of course, is a pretty nebulous term, but I had ideas about it that were very clear. And I was feeling just so much resentment. It's like, I'm not going to give them a buy on this. And I was in a discussion group during one of the meetings, and one of the members of the group, as I was talking about my anger and how it was feeling for me, etc., just quietly said to me, she kind of put her hand on my arm and she said, do you really want to spend your life energy going to a gas station that you know has no gas? And it just knocked my pants off. I got mad about the fact that it knocked my pants off. But that was the nub of the matter. It's like, I was owed. I had this idea. I was owed capable, effective parents. And that really enabled me, I think, even when I tell this story, I get to experience the sadness, the parts that were so hard or something, it's sort of in the body. I don't even so much think about it as just sometimes my mind will go there, and almost always there are tears, there are almost always tears, and it's not about me or my parents anymore. It's just a situation that I know, I have some heartbreak about. And it's so much, it kind of grounds me in a way. So it's a story that oftentimes it will come up when I'm feeling frustrated or mad about how life is in one way or another. And I offer that up as because um, it's a good example of taking unhelpful or harmful forms of noticing and meeting things as they are um, into something that looks a whole lot more like loving kindness um, for me mostly, but also really a whole different way of understanding my parents and the lives they led.
We have a few minutes left. Is there anyone who has any last comment or something? Okay then, thank you so much, Kyoku, for your talk today. A couple of announcements. Next week's speaker is Patrice Kolish, and then the week after that is myself. We have a Receiving Merrill study group beginning on the October 13th, and also a Vipassana and Zen, Practicing the Ways retreat on November 13th. And then we have Rohatsu beginning on December 1st. So those are the announcements. And then we'll close with our 4 vows. And that will be our morning. So. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to realize it. Okay, thank you all. Thank you for joining us all this morning, and we hope to see you again next week. Okay, thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.